We're back on the early edge, and it's time to look into the future. And we're going to start with the odds to win the NFL MVP. These odds have shifted since last week. Since a couple of weeks ago, Josh Allen, the lead dog, at plus 150. Then Lamar Jackson at plus 200. Got Jared Goff at plus 600. And then a pretty heavy drop-off. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, down the line to my guy, Jaden Daniels at plus 4,000. All right, let's bring in the stars. Larry, I'm going to start with you. This does look like a situation where Josh Allen has it, but we know these things are subject to change. There's still, a handful of weeks left in this NFL season. So is it Josh Allen, or are you looking at somebody else on the field?
This is the craziest market, I think, in sports, the way it switches so much based on, one game. And Josh Allen was plus 400, and then he goes out and beats the Chiefs, and Lamar plays like he did in Pittsburgh, and now he drops down to the second favorite. I do think it is going to be Josh Allen ultimately, because it has to come, or it traditionally comes from a team that wins 11 or 12 games and is a number 1 or number 2 seed. And the way the Ravens are trending now, they're going to be a wild card, even though Lamar's numbers, he deserves the MVP in my opinion, but I don't think he's going to get it because I believe they're going to be a wild card. And then Jared Goff, you could also make a great case for him, but he's got so much more talent around him. And Josh Allen is doing this without receivers that are on the team last year, and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, and key weapons that he's lost this year. So I think that narrative is very strong. If they go on and get the number 1 or the number 2 seed, I think it's Josh Allen's trophy to take home.
Yeah, Proppy, I hate to be a prisoner of the moment here. I agree with Larry. It's probably, first of all, I'm just so impressed with the Bills. Because again, I think this is the show where I'm talking about how I'm just wrong all the time. I'm usually on the other end of it. I'm sure it's annoying to people, but I didn't think the Bills were going to be very good this year. I didn't think the defense was going to be very good. Josh Allen had basically Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid, and that's it. And we've seen those guys injured, and Josh Allen still succeed. The defense really good. It's hard to look away from Josh Allen, but I wish I took your advice, Prop Stars, from 2 weeks ago, because you said, hey, Josh Allen MVP plus 650. And then a week later you said, hey, Josh Allen MVP plus 400. Well, now it's Josh Allen MVP plus 150. So is it too short to take? Did you already take it at the plus 650?
Yeah, I've been advocating for Josh Allen for the last few weeks here. He's really been playing fantastic football all season, exceeding expectations. I think from a narrative standpoint, you also have, losing the 2 wide receivers, Larry mentioned, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, losing a lot of talent all over the team. The expectation was that they might even be the second or third best team in their own division. So playing as well as they are, snapping the Chiefs' undefeated season, Josh Allen has just been phenomenal all year. So definitely deserving candidate. At the current price, though, I don't think there's a lot of value there. Looking at the rest of the market here, I do think there's a little bit of value on Jared Goff, especially considering the role that the Lions are. But the guy I want to talk about is Joe Burrow at 40-1 odds. So I'd sprinkle a little bit on him to win MVP, but I'd also bet him to win Offensive Player of the Year. From a statistical standpoint, he's having an absolutely brilliant season. 27 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. That leads the NFL. He leads the NFL in passing yards. He's first in QBR. Just all the advanced metrics are absolutely phenomenal. So he's really on pace from a statistical standpoint to have one of the best seasons by a quarterback in NFL history. And if the Bengals can get their act together, I'm not sure if he'll get in the MVP mix, but he can certainly make a very strong case for Offensive Player of the Year. But I do think he's live in this MVP market, especially at 40-1 odds. So I definitely would look at Joe Burrow as a potential dark horse in this very interesting race.
I mean, if the Bengals can rattle off a few wins in a row, that number is going to get a lot shorter. You brought up the Lions, so let's talk about that. Let's go to the NFC. We brought up the Bills. That's the team I think might end up winning the AFC. The Lions, the team I think might end up winning the NFC. Larry, is there anybody that you think can unseat them? Because when you look at the NFC standings, it feels like the Lions, a little bit of the Eagles, and then everybody else.
Yeah, the Lions and the Eagles are in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. But when you look at the odds from BetMGM, I think plus 1,000 is too much value on the Minnesota Vikings sitting there at 8-2. This is a team tied with the Eagles in their 3-game win streak. They've given up only 33 points, Brian Flores' defense. And you look at their schedule, they're at Chicago, they're favored by a field goal. The next 5 games after that, they're either going to be favored or a pick 'em. And then you get to the week 18 game against the Lions, which could decide everything if the Vikings continue to play so well. I mean, the Eagles are plus 80 in point differential, and the Vikings are plus 74. So they're right there with the Eagles in terms of overall strength. It's only because of the Eagles' hot streak right now that they are such, preeminent favorites over the Vikings to get the number 1 seed. Yes, Detroit deserves to be in the driver's seat, but I just think plus 1,000, a little too much.
Yeah, prop stars, this one's tough for me because I do think the number on the Lions to win the NFC North is good enough to bet. I don't think it's like a crazy bad number. So that's where I would lean. But I'm sure you're going to make the argument for the Eagles, and it's probably a good one, especially considering, I think the Lions are great, but we have seen them slip up here and there. We have seen Jared Goff have bad games here and there. It's certainly possible if the Eagles keep going like this, they could catch them. What's your thought?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I look at the NFC, though, I really think it's the Lions and then the Eagles, and then there's a massive gap to the next tier down. So I really think that's the class of the NFC. Frankly, if I had to pick a third team, well, I do think there's a little value on the Vikings, as Larry mentioned. I think they've already peaked and they're playing so far above expectations at this point. They're very well coached. I just don't see them as a legitimate or viable threat to either of these teams. I think the Commanders are honestly the most dangerous team besides the Eagles and the Lions, and the most likely to potentially upset one of these teams, just considering their youth, playing with nothing to lose, house money, as they say. And Jaden Daniels has been absolutely brilliant. I do see them as a potential wild card here that could potentially dethrone one of these teams. But yeah, it's the Eagles and then the Commanders. Then there's a pretty big drop off as far as I'm concerned.
Prop stars, that really warmed my heart. I was smiling during that whole take. Thank you. On behalf of all Washington fans, thank you very much. All right, guys, let's have some fun. We talked about, I just mentioned the team I like in the NFC, the team I like in the AFC. It should be no surprise to people. I'm not exactly going off the board here. Let's talk Super Bowl exactas. Let's get these odds up a little bit and talk about who we think is going to be in the Super Bowl and who we think is going to win the Super Bowl. Larry, get us started.
I'll take the Eagles to beat the Bills, and that pays 35-1. I mean, the Bills are almost in the driver's seat right now. They just have to make up one game on Kansas City to get the top seed, and they've been just so consistent. It was a bad spot, that game. They had to go to Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. They were really banged up. They got blown out, but other than that, they've just been super consistent down the stretch. And obviously coming off a huge win and getting their bye sets them up well to get that top seed, which is so valuable for them to get to the Super Bowl. And then on the other side, I mean, there's no team hotter than the Eagles. We talked about it earlier, how great that defense is and all the weapons on offense. As long as A.J. Brown is healthy and Saquon and Jalen Hurts, they're going to be tough to stop. And I just, I love the Lions. I even have a Lions ticket to win it all. But I don't know why. I foresee some more heartbreak for Dan Campbell.
I get it. I totally get it. I mean, listen, as much as I like the Lions, and I do, they're in my exacta pick as well. Jared Goff is their quarterback, and he's been great indoors. He's great. He'll probably have a lot of indoor games during the playoffs for obvious reasons. But he is their quarterback at the end of the day. So I don't think we should be incredibly surprised. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but I just don't think we should be incredibly surprised if in the playoffs he has a bad game against a defense like the Eagles. With all that said, my exact is kind of boring. It's the Lions. It's the Bills. I've seen enough in the AFC for me to think Kansas City's not this year. I've said this before, been wrong. I don't think Kansas City is making it through the playoffs. There's just too much going on with the injuries on their defense that are starting to accumulate and the issues they have on offense. I think the Bills are built to win in the playoffs. Ravens perhaps as well, but I like the Bills on that side. I like the Detroit Lions on the other side. It's plus 1,600. Not as fun as Larry's and definitely not as fun as the one you're going to hear from Prop Stars. Prop Stars, what's your Super Bowl exacta?
Gentlemen, it is no secret that I hail from the Keystone State. I'm talking about the great Commonwealth that is Pennsylvania. I'm going with an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl, guys. I take a lot of pride in that fact, by the way, being from Pennsylvania. Shout out to Bucks County, where I'm born and raised. But I'm going the Eagles versus the Steelers. I mean, how can you not? The Eagles, the hottest team in the NFL. But what about this Steelers team? Just flying under the radar, 8-2, just having beaten Baltimore are just so impressed with this team, what Mike Tomlin's been able to do, just playing just such sound football, defense first, running the football. Russell Wilson still making plays. The Reclamation Project, really just so impressed with everything Pittsburgh. They are a true dark horse. No one wants to play Pittsburgh, in my opinion. They are very live. I think very few teams would be favored over them, and I just think they're built to win in the postseason, especially when the weather gets cold and conditions worsen. So I think we have a good chance to see an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl for the first time, and I'll take the Eagles to win it, of course, at 70-1 odds, gentlemen.